Hello everyone, it's Joseph Dunphy here, and this is your weekly Grass10 grazing management update on the Dairy Edge. The pasture-based data for this week, the average farm cover is sitting at 745 kilos of dry matter per hectare, and the cover per livestock unit is 228 kilos of dry matter per livestock unit. Growth is sitting at 48, demand at 46, and the diet currently on pasture-based Ireland is 13 kilos of grass, 4.5 kilos of meal, and 1.5 kilos of silage. And I just remind all our listeners today to continually update the diet as you're completing your weekly walks on pasture-based Ireland. Dry matter percentages recorded were 22% in Moore Park on first rotation grass, 14% in Moore Park on second rotation grass, 19% in Oak Park, and 21% in Athenry. Current grass growths are very good, with most parts of the country growing between 10 and 20% ahead of the 5-year average. Grass grow predictions for the next week are again expected to be slightly above target, with between 36 and 53 kilos of dry matter per hectare expected throughout the country. Predicted rainfall amounts are high though, within around 40 to 50 millimetres of rain expected for a vast majority of the country, and soil temperatures are again expected to be stubborn with the slightly cooler nights at between 8 and 9 degrees Celsius. The key messages in this week's podcast is average farm cover needs to be maintained above 600 kilos of dry matter per hectare on all farms, or 180 to 220 kilos of dry matter per livestock unit throughout April. When we look at the dairy farm cover data for this week, a proportion of the farms, about 8%, are currently below the average farm cover targets, and the key message here is they're growing about 30% less pasture as a result. The growth rates of farmers in Category 1, with a farm cover of less than 160 kilos of dry matter per livestock unit, are only growing 37 kilos of grass, whereas Category 2 and Category 3 farmers, so Category 2 farmers from 160 to 220 kilos of dry matter per livestock unit, and Category 3 farmers above 220 kilos of dry matter per livestock unit are both growing nearly 50 kilos of dry matter per day. Farmers in Category 1 need to take steps to increase their cover per livestock unit above 160 urgently by increasing the grazing area or feeding additional supplementation. Therefore, walking the farm every week to assess grass supply is critical. Farmers in Category 2 and 3 need to remove remaining silage from the diet and allocate sufficient meal to prevent grass tetany. Grass allocations now should be 24 to 36 hours for any farms that are in Categories 2 and 3, so farmers that are in grass surplus, so animals can realise full intakes at grass. The next target from a nutrient application point of view is 100 kilos of N per hectare, 80 units per acre by the 1st of May for dry farms, and about 80 kilos of N per hectare, so 60 units by the 1st of May on heavier soils. It's also important to identify a paddock for reseeding and oversowing this April. Poor weather over the last 2 grazing seasons has limited the ability to get reseeding completed on farm. And have a look at your pasture-based data and select a poor performing paddock or a paddock with a heavy weed burden for reseeding now this April. Reseeding enables more grass to be grown, especially in the springtime, higher quality grass to be eaten, and therefore higher animal performance. Reseeded pastures are also more responsive to nitrogen application in an era now where we have lower N allowances, and enables the incorporation of clover. To help you with all this information, the Grass10 team, along with the Clover 150 and our colleagues in the advisory service, are running reseeding events throughout the country during April and May. These reseeding events are ongoing at the minute, and there will be a focus at these on machinery and oversowing demo, seedbed preparation, post-sowing management, and suitable summer stocking rates to enable reseeding. So make sure to have a quick look at our flyer across our social media channels and also in this week's Grass10 newsletter for an event near you. As we move into the second half of April also, it's now time to review the clover contents in your paddocks. By reviewing the clover contents when you complete your weekly grass walk, we can identify paddocks with suitable levels of clover for reduced fertiliser N applications as we move through 2025. The level of clover contents in swards has improved over the last few weeks, with more favourable weather this spring compared to last year. So make sure to assess your clover contents as we move through the latter part of April. In this week's Grass10 newsletter, there's also a clover scorecard available. So click the link in there to look at what the different clover percentages look like and the score that relates to them. This week's featured farmer is Matthew Draper from Ballineen, County Cork. Matthew's milking 220 cows. Current diet is 14 kilos of grass, 4 kilos of meal, and 2 kilos of silage. Cows are currently milking 29 litres, 405 fat, and 3.62 protein. Matthew notes that growth is strong for this time of the year for his farm at 51 kilos of dry matter per hectare, and his aim throughout April now is to keep cover per livestock unit at 200 as he moves through his second rotation. He's about 14 acres spread off currently for reseeding, and this is going to be reseeded in a couple of weeks' time with a high tetraploid and white clover mix on his farm. Matthew was one of the hosts of our reseeding events and had a super turnout last week on his farm. So make sure to attend our reseeding event near you soon. If you'd like to hear more from the Grass10 team, subscribe to the weekly Grass10 newsletter, which is available on the Grass10 page on the Teagasc public website, and the link to the newsletter is also available in the description of this podcast. We'd also like to thank the sponsors of the Grass10 campaign, AIB, Grassland Agro, Department of Agriculture, FBD, and the Farmers Journal. This has been your Grass10 update, and I'll talk to you all next week.